Hi guys, today's video is about the 8 basic strokes of calligraphy that make up the alphabet. And for those of you who don't know me, my name's Sarah and I have a channel on crafts and calligraphy. So if you're into that kind of thing, please do like and subscribe. And here's the video.
So I'm going to pick up where we last left off, which was doing very basic strokes. That kind of discussed the very basic principles that in calligraphy, when you move the pen upwards, you're doing a thinner stroke. And when you move the pen downwards, you're doing a thicker stroke and apply more pressure. There's actually 8 basic strokes in calligraphy, so we're a lot more advanced than just these 2 strokes. I mean, this is a very nice place to start, and it sets foundation for your 8 basic strokes. These 8 basic strokes, when combined, actually make up the alphabet. So you can take all the basic strokes and then you can start making up your A, B, C, Ds, etc. So I'm going to talk you through the basic stroke, starting with these 2 actually, but they do have a name. So this stroke here, when you are moving in an upwards motion, is called the upstroke. This stroke here, when you apply more pressure on your brush, and today I'm actually using a calligraphy pen, I do also use an acrylic brush. You apply more pressure downwards, that is your downstroke. So I'm just going to demonstrate quickly here, your upstroke. I use the tip of the pen for this. And when you've got a new pen, you just want to find what kind of pressure you apply to get a nice thick fluid upstroke. And then for your downward stroke, you just simply apply more pressure. It can make a nice sound like that, and that's totally normal. And you always want to use these principles when forming the next basic strokes. If the stroke contains an upward motion, it'll be lighter. And if the stroke contains a downward motion, it'll be the stronger, deeper stroke. So your next pair of basic strokes are your underturn and overturn. I'm actually going to start with the overturn. And it's as simple as it sounds. It's basically a stroke going up and over. I've not done this using the basic strokes of calligraphy, but just to demonstrate what strokes you will be doing, you'll be going lighter on the upwards motion, transitioning here into your downwards motion, whereby you'll be doing a thicker stroke. You've got your lighter upward stroke into your downward thicker stroke. Again, lighter upward stroke into your downward thicker stroke. And you want these lines to be parallel. So you can see that's kind of parallel in the angle it's at. You might want to use grid paper for doing this. For the purpose of practicing, I'm just using normal lined paper. I think until you master the fluidity of the strokes, lined paper is absolutely fine. So takeaways from this, you want the lines to be parallel, you want your upward line being thinner. This is the part where you transition the texture of the brush from thin to thick. So you can practice that, to thick. And then your downward strokes, the thicker. Okay, so on to your underturn, and this is essentially the opposite of your overturn, whereby you've got a thicker line going down, and then you've got the transitional area here, and then your thinner line going up. Obviously, like I said, you want to be doing that in a single fluid motion, but that's just to demonstrate how the stroke looks. So you've got your thicker line going down, and then transition into your thinner line going up. So you've got your thicker line going down, thinner line going up. And again, you want these to be parallel to each other. And then following on from those 2 strokes, you've got something called your compound curve. So your compound curve is similar to your overturn. So if we remember overturn, it's up and over. So up and over. And what your compound curve does is add an additional line, upwards line on the end there. And again, you're going to try and keep these parallel. So we've got your thin line going up, down, up, and all of these parallel. So most of the other strokes I feel come in pairs. So you've got your upstroke and downstroke. I like to think of those as a pair. You've got your overturn and underturn as a pair, and then this one's an advance of your overturn and underturn. That's your compound curve. Do it one more time. Up, down, up. The next stroke is called the oval. So the oval is essentially an O, but what you want to do is the upward stroke here is your finer stroke, and then you've got your downward stroke here is your thicker stroke. The trick is you don't want to start your oval at the top where your thicker line is, or at the bottom where your thinner line is, because it's often leads to kind of disjointed transitional areas. So you want to start in the middle of your oval with a thinner line going up and over. And then you transition into your thicker line. So when I'm doing it very slowly, it's hard. And then you back up to your thinner line. Thin line to thick line to thin line. You can see the joints so much better. Now you've got your final pair of strokes. So you've got something called the ascending loop. I'm going to just write it in normal cursive there. And you're going to have your thinner line going up here and then a thicker line going downwards. This is your ascending loop. So you're ascending up, then coming down. Again, you don't want to start with your downward line and link it round. You're going to be starting the stroke in the middle. So you're doing a thin stroke upwards, transitioning down to your thicker stroke. Try that again. Thin stroke upwards, transitioning down into your thicker stroke. And you also want to make sure, like I've done here, that the join between the two strokes is hidden by this thicker descending stroke. You don't want a tail like that. You want that completely hidden. So that's your ascending loop. Your descending loop is the opposite of this. So your descending loop, without using the strokes, just use a normal cursive, is like this. But you're going to be starting it from the top rather than the middle. It's the opposite formation to the ascending loop. So you've got a heavy downward stroke, you're going to loop that round to a lighter upward stroke, and then you're going to close the strokes here. So I'll just demonstrate that. So you've got your heavy downward stroke, transition here into your upward stroke and end there. I'm going to do that without lifting my hand off the paper. Heavy downward stroke, your lighter upward stroke. So you've got your 8 basic strokes there, and I'm covered in pen. So the next video will be going through how you can combine those strokes to make the alphabet. But I would suggest that you could just watch this video a couple of times, practice the strokes. They're quite difficult to begin with, and you also need to get a feel for the pen that you're using and the paper that you're using. Once you've practiced those strokes several times, it might be time to start looking at how you make up letters of the alphabet. So my next video will talk you through that in a little bit more detail. If you found this useful, please do like and subscribe. So this video is just the next step in your basic learning, and we will advance throughout the series of videos. So thanks very much, guys, and have a lovely evening.